All right, viewers, on to the top focus now. Iran's parliamentary speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf has sharply criticized the European Union for designating the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, as a terrorist organization. Ghalibaf described the IRGC as one of the world's strongest counterterrorism forces, accusing the European Union of supporting terrorism by targeting Iran's arm. The European Union's decision, made in response to Iran's deadly crackdown on anti-government protests, marks a significant shift in Europe's approach to Tehran. The European Union also imposed sanctions on Iranian officials, including the Interior Minister, while expressing that diplomatic channels with Iran would remain open. Despite concerns over the impact on diplomatic relations, European officials have emphasized that the violence against protesters cannot be tolerated. All right, viewers, those are the latest updates coming in from Iran. In fact, the situation is deteriorating. We're also learning that the US has just flown a MC-130J Commando 2 aircraft from UK to Azerbaijan, and some in Iran are citing US aircraft over the area. Iran's military spokesman, Brigadier General Mohammad Akram Minia, told state television that US aircraft carriers have serious vulnerabilities and that numerous US military assets in the Gulf region are within the range of our medium-range missiles. Joining me now in this discussion is Saul Sadka, who's a political commentator from Tel Aviv. Saul, thanks very much for joining us. Firstly, do take us through what's the latest that you're picking up. There are reports of US aircraft being sighted over the Middle East.
Yes, exactly. Well, there have been reports of continual buildup of United States military assets building up in the region for a few weeks since the beginning of the protests, the beginning of the year, really. And this continues to amass. However, I will say that the people who know will not be talking about the actual reality. So anything that might be, any hints that people are spreading, is more likely than not to be mere noise rather than actual information. Before the previous strike on Iran in June by Israel, we saw the same thing. And it surprised everyone. No one knew that it was coming except the people who actually did know. And those people didn't talk about it in advance, and we would expect to see the same thing this time.
All right, talk to us about how Iran is really ramping up its arsenal in the face of an imminent strike from the US.
Everything that Iran is doing, whatever it is doing under the full cover of American and Israeli surveillance. They can see everything that Iran is doing. They know where all their military assets are. They have satellite coverage that shows them everything. There's nothing that they can hide from the United States or from Israel. So whatever they are doing, it is known what they are doing, which makes it very much easier to deal with it. They are very much limited also as to what they can actually build up. They might be able to build a few dozens of additional ballistic missiles per month, and perhaps they managed to somewhat replenish their stocks since the attacks in June, although we do know that they lost most of their launchers. It is believed that Iran currently has around 1,500 to 2,000 remaining major ballistic missiles with long range and heavy payloads. They lost a lot of them through use and destruction on the ground from Israeli strikes in June. Whatever they have left, however, is limited not by the numbers of missiles that they have, but the number of launchers. It is believed that a majority of their launchers were lost. The main thing for Iran in their battle against the United States and Israel is to be able to offer some kind of deterrent. And the deterrent is really a factor, not of how many missiles they have, but of how fast they can fire those missiles off. If they can only fire the missiles off in salvos of 30 or 40 at a time, which is what they were able to do by the end of the war in June, that is not a particularly great threat to anyone, because the countermeasures that the United States and Israel have are very effective, and they are able to shoot down approximately 90% of those on a good day. It's only a problem if Iranians are able to shoot off those missiles in the hundreds, because if they can shoot them off in the hundreds, they can overwhelm the defense mechanisms, and they might be able to raise that success rate from 10% after the countermeasures to maybe 30 or 40%. So if they can fire them off fast, they vastly increase their danger. However, nevertheless, even despite all this, the missiles that they have, which is their last remaining serious deterrent after their proxies have all been eviscerated, that being said, they are not accurate enough. They do not have the accuracy to reliably strike genuine strategic targets like aircraft on the ground, that kind of thing. The things that would really make the Israelis and the Americans pay. What they do have the ability to do is to target population centers, large population centers, and kill civilians. And we saw last time that the 500 or 600 missiles that they managed to shoot off, approximately 50 of them made landfall in Israel, and those 50 bus-sized missiles managed to kill 30 people because the Israelis are quite well prepared for these attacks, and the civilians are quite disciplined in heading to shelters.
All right, Saul, now Trump is also saying that he's asking for Iran to come to talks. In fact, details are coming in of Trump's fresh statements. Is that a possibility now? Can Iran really come on the negotiating table?
Who knows? Trump is mercurial. No one knows what he's going to do. However, I would say this, that before the massacre of some 30,000 or more protesters by the Iranian regime over the past couple of weeks, it would have been perhaps more conceivable that Trump would sit down and shake the hands of the IRGC butchers who have been torturing their people for 47 years now, this month. But after seeing this, and after particularly Trump promised the protesters that they should write down the names of the people who are killing them so they can be brought to justice, it seems just implausible that Trump will shake those hands. At some point, the hands become so bloodied that shaking that hand seems inconceivable. But who knows?
All right, Saul, well, thanks very much then for your opinion. And we now move on, viewers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky